are listening to the Chompcast, the official podcast of Sword Chomp. And remember, you can always go to swordchomp.com where you can access the many places our podcast is available for download. But if you're listening to the show right now, that means you found us. So welcome to the madness that is the Chompcast. Love is in the sound waves, as they say, for a very special and intimate episode that we have planned, Valentine's Day themed. Shadow of the Colossus is the game of the week, and it's a game that has a legendary tale of giving your life, mind, body, and soul to conquer the impossible, all to save the one you love. And it got us thinking also a lot about video game romances as our topic of the show. Video game love stories and you know how romance has been effective or ineffective in our medium. And I also went to our Instagram community, which is amazing, and got a lot of really cool responses on their favorite video game romances that I'll weave into the show as well. So we've been playing a lot of Shadow of the Colossus, and we're going to talk about that. Shea finished up Horizon Zero Dawn. Speaking of romance, our BioBreak article this week involves a really cool study, sort of contrasting the passion between Japanese and American lovers, which I think is interesting to read, especially because Shea's in Japan. And of course, me and Fish continue our love-hate relationship with Monster Hunter. Who's loving and who's hating? That is the question I will leave up in the air here at this point. But we got some more Monster Hunter talk, a couple cool polls as well, a Final Fantasy poll, and a Donkey Kong Country poll that I went to the Instagram community as well. So we'll have the results of that. There's just so much cool stuff to talk about this week. So it's gonna be a fun time. But first, like I said, Valentine's Day themed. Let's get to some quick intros here. Fish is here today, of course, the Filipino Johnny Depp, the one and only. And look, I have a cool story here. Me and Fish went to middle school together. And I remember on Valentine's Day, we would all bring in cards to give out to our class. And Fish would bring in these like really fancy 3D pop-up cards. Had like a little pull tab, and like a 3D fish would pop up out of the card holding a rose. It was really ingenious and adorable. But the cool thing was, you know, some cards, you open them up and they'll play like a little song for you. Fish was ahead of his time because when you'd open up his Valentine's Day card, it just blew a little cloud of vape smoke right in your face, which was a sign of things to come, I guess. How you doing, Fish?
Yeah, I actually got that idea from the 1986 Batman movie.
Oh, okay.
You know, where the Joker has this little flower that squirts acid in people's faces.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I never could get a hold of acid.
Well, that's probably
that makes a lot of sense, because in elementary school, I remember when you gave me mine, and just a bunch of sticky white fluid came out and flew across my face, and it gummed my eyes together, and I couldn't open them for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran out of the regular vape that I had.
It was either that or you had like the test card.
It must have been expired vape.
Yeah, that's what happens with expired vape juice. It gets really sticky and cloggy.
If you want to call it that.
That's
yes.
it. That's it.
Sure.
Yeah.
It helps you sleep at night.
He hasn't slept very well at night since that, actually, Fish.
Yeah, I didn't sleep. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and like I said, Fish, I just love the idea of, you know, your vaping roots starting from the very beginning, somehow. So I know people don't like to joke about kids doing drugs, but whatever. I like the idea of you doing it in my fantasy world. So. Oh,
yeah. Anytime, Morgan.
Thank you.
I'll do drugs in your fantasy world anytime.
We are glad you're here, Fish, and it's gonna be a fun show today. We couldn't do a Valentine's Day show without your general creepiness. So, up next, of course, from Japan, the one and only Shea Layton, the professor, as we call him. And it's funny, Shea, you know, I give you a lot of shit about your Tinder exploits on every podcast, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Beating that horse to death repeatedly. And I was thinking about it, and you know what? It's not really a joke, but so much as like a epiphany. In a lot of ways, Valentine's Day cards were like the first Tinder pages, right? You know, will you be my Valentine? Circle yes or no. It's kind of where it all started.
Except with Valentine's Day cards, they didn't usually happen to have a picture of someone's genitals in them because we were in elementary school. Whereas Tinder, you know, if you end up getting someone's phone number or you access their social media or something, a particularly interesting photo will usually end up in someone's inbox. So,
yeah, it was a whole lot harder when you had to get those things developed.
You have to develop it and then put it in the card.
You're like one of the Polaroids, you're just flapping it.
God.
You're just flapping it. You're like, this dick picture. Man, it's going to turn out great. Let me flap it for another 2 minutes. Oh, I can't wait for her to see this. She doesn't know what she's about to get.
I love that. Like, yeah, we all agree dick pics are pretty vulgar, but I love the idea of someone developing a dick pic Polaroid and sliding it into their card. God.
I think we should change our name to the Dick Pic Polaroid podcast.
No, that's our band. That's our side indie band, the Dick Pic Polaroids. Try to say that 10 times fast. The Dick Pic Polaroids. The Dick Pic. That's a mouthful. No pun intended. Anyways, glad you are here, Shea, as usual, of course. And last but surely not least, Joshua Fowler is here, the tech guru. And Josh, I imagine that you were ahead of the game. You were probably the first person photoshopping your own Valentine's Day cards when you were little. And who is it that you were photoshopping your head onto again, Josh? Was it Mark Wahlberg's body? I'm trying to remember.
It was actually Dick Butt, just with my face there.
Dick Butt?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, sexy.
God, that's too bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm imagining that, Josh, and whew, you must have got a lot of numbers that day.
2 or 3.
Which, is...
That's about... you need 7 or 8 to actually make the call. So...
Okay. Well, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect you to take that route, Josh. I had a whole Mark Wahlberg and Boogie Nights joke lined up, and now I'm just going to have to trash it. So...
Oh.
It is what it is. This is the middle school Valentine's Day card. Yeah, I don't know. Valentine's Day is just one of those weird holidays, and the only funny story I have for you guys is that when I, of course, am Morgan here from Montana, is that one Valentine's for my ex-wife, I was trying way too hard, and I remember I went and got the song. I don't know why this was the song that I heard in my head, but there's a Will Ferrell song from this basketball movie called Semi-Pro, and it's called Love Me Sexy. And you guys remember that song? Love Me Sexy. You remember that song? So I played that on the stereo. I had my wife go downstairs, and I went to the craft store and I bought a bunch of roses, and I tore the petals off, and I made a trail from the basement all the way up the stairs of like rose petals, and it was like a pattern that went through the living room where the song was playing. Love me sexy. And the rose petals went into the bedroom and led to me naked on the bed, and the only thing covering my man parts was a bottle of champagne.
Was a single rose petal.
Was what?
No.
Folded in half.
Josh.
It all fit nicely underneath that rose petal.
God. It was really cold. All right, come on. It was February. No, it was
the heat was off because you paid for all the rose petals.
It's February.
You don't want those things to
guys.
wilt.
Come on. Yeah, it was a champagne bottle. Thank you very much.
Actually, that's a really romantic thing to do for a woman. I wonder if did she actually reciprocate and
no, she didn't
found
appreciate
that
it at
sexy?
all. She kind of laughed a little bit, and then we had sort of that awkward, been married too long sex. So it wasn't a success overall, I would say. But I was trying, man. I was trying.
I guess that counts.
Sometimes you'll be in a relationship. First sweet moral of the day, where you're giving it your all, and you're not getting it back. And of course, that relationship is doomed to fail, and it did fail. But it always makes for a true and funny story. So if anyone wants to steal that idea out there, it's a freebie from Morgan. Crack up your lady.
I actually have a very short, funny Valentine's Day story I can tell as well, and I think you guys will appreciate it.
All right.
6th grade, I was whatever you call dating back then. I was seeing this chick. It was the second of 4 times we dated in middle school. and I really liked her. So I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna buy some of those Sweethearts candies, and I'm gonna make a poem for her.
Aw.
So I spent all night on Valentine's Day Eve, or February 13th, whatever you want to call it. And I was just like, like a madman. I was gluing and I was thinking. I wrote for like 2-3 hours, and I had just glued these. And my dumb ass didn't think, well, how, logistically speaking, how am I going to get this to her? How am I going to like fold this up and give it to her without embarrassing her?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? There's no other way but to just give it to her. And I remember we were in the library for class, and it had been kind of sitting in my stuff. And I went up to her and I was like, here you are. And she's like, oh, thanks.
Wow.
And then literally, I was a little embarrassed, but I was like, oh man, I'm fucking good. You know, I figured maybe she was just embarrassed. One of her friends comes up to me, like next period, is like, oh, she threw it out already.
What?
I was like,
damn.
That fucking bitch.
What the fuck? And you're married to her this day? No, that's not.
No, I'm not. She is thankfully, and I mean this in all sincerity, I think she's happily married and has kids. I know she has kids. I don't know if she's happily married, but
well, that's.
I would imagine not, since she rejected my Sweethearts poem in the 6th grade.
That's rough. So far, we have 2 sad Valentine's Day stories. So by the end of the podcast, Fish and Josh, feel free to chirp in with your own sad Valentine's story, and we can complete the circle.
Yeah, mine's is pretty short actually. I'll get it out of the way.
Just get out. Let's get it out.
I never had a Valentine.
That sounds like an unbelievably happy story to me, Fish.
Yeah, for real, dude.
That's true.
Do you know how much money you
I don't
saved?
feel like I'm missing out on it.
How much like anguish?
Are you a serial killer,
No,
Fish?
dude, you're not.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. No.
Well, that is sad and sweet. Or short and sweet, I should say.
There's nothing sad about it, dude. Like, I can't tell you the amount of times I've stressed over giving someone a Valentine's Day present, or like making sure it's like just this utmost special day. I mean, like, and that's not to say that like those things are bad or you shouldn't do them. It's just, for me, like, I get really bad anxiety when it comes to like relationship stuff, because I want to make sure I do everything perfect when that stuff happens.
Yeah.
And
right.
because so
yeah.
You're just lucky you haven't had to go through that stress.
Yeah.
Is all I'm saying.
And the only time I actually did have my first Valentine's was with my wife and girlfriend at the time, and that made it more special, I think, because all we
That's
did
true.
was just,
both of them at the same time, your wife and your girlfriend.
Yeah,
it's
like
cheaper.
Nice.
If you have it at the same time, you're only paying for 3 meals and not 4.
Fish, you know, he's economically savvy, if nothing else. All right. Well,
this is my friend.
It's like, reminds me of that thing from the Office where Ryan's like, oh shit, I hooked up with her on February the 13th. So he's like, damn it, now I have to get a Valentine's Day. I mean, it's like Shea said, it's one of those holidays that it gives you a lot of anxiety because you want to do a good job. But anyways, that's kind of the fun outpouring of our soul here. So it's cool to learn those things. I learn things about you guys every day, and I've known you forever. But we're here to talk about video games and romance, and Shadow of Colossus sort of inspired the topic of the show, which started off, like Josh said, was like it sounded like a shitty thesis I was writing for a college class. It was like, from Mario to Shadow of the Colossus, saving the princess, and then it kind of evolved into just gaming romances. But that's where the idea came from, because I'm playing Shadow of the Colossus, and I'm like, man, this is the same age-old concept of fucking Mario. I'm just saving the princess, you know, and it's still as powerful and as important as it is.